what's up everybody? It's Rita Sally, your Catholic girl on the radio. Today we are talking about human injustice. Stay tuned. Alright, so with everything going on in the world today, we kind of tend to think that this is, where's God? That's the main question that people come up with. Where's God? Why is he absent? Why is he allowing for these things to happen? Alright, so this is what Padre Pio says. Padre Pio says, do not let your hearts become troubled by sad spectacles of human injustice. Even this has its value in the face of all else. And it is from this that one day you will see the justice of God rising with unfailing triumph. So, Padre Pio lived through a world war. And by the way, his stories are extremely miraculous. Padre Pio, at one point, there were countless American pilots that were flying over to bomb where his monastery was. And they kept on flying these missions and then turning back around and coming back down. And so the finally captain was like, why are you guys keep doing this? They kept on saying, we see a monk in the sky holding up his hand. And this happened multiple times. And finally, he decided to go up, and he actually did see Padre Pio stand, floating up in the air and preventing these airplanes from actually bombing where he was. But that was a side note. So he did live through a war. He lived through a great human injustice. It's one of the greatest. Why it's called a world war. Everyone was involved in this. Everyone was affected by this. Yet still, somehow he says, do not let your hearts become troubled by sad spectacles of human injustice. Even this has its value in the face of all else. And it is from this that one day you will see the justice of God rising with unfailing triumph. God, you guys, our God is good. He is good in all circumstances. He is good in all circumstances. Hope in him. And he will deliver you. I think the issue that we face is not whether or not he will deliver us. I think our main issue is when. You know what I mean? When we talk about human injustice, we kind of think of, okay, so why is God allowing this? First of all, to answer that question, we have free will. We talked about free wills in other episodes, but free will, basically, you have the freedom to choose. And it is out of your choices that our choices affect not just us, but the community around us. And we are affected by the choices of others as well. And that's why we have to pray for one another. That's why we have to pray for our enemies. One thing that always struck my mind is when I was reading the story of Our Lady of Fatima and the apparition, something stood out to me very much. So if you don't know the story, Fatima, basically Our Lady appears to 3 children in a few consecutive months, and then she tells them that there's this great miracle that's going to happen. This is the place where in Lisbon, very close to Lisbon, and Lisbon was the heart of communism. It was not going to be Russia. It was going to be Lisbon, and it had been planned for there until Our Lady appeared. And so they took these 3 children and they told them they're going to boil them in oil. And they were planning on doing that, but they didn't. And so Our Lady said something that really stood out to me was that Our Lady said that this miracle was supposed to be bigger. And even today, this miracle was seen by more than 100,000 people, and it's documented in history. It's documented in newspapers at that time, and not just Christian newspapers. You had secular newspapers, communist newspapers. Everyone was talking about this thing that happened in Fatima. And so there are, it's very well documented, and it was huge. But think about this, because of the hardness of these men's hearts, the ones that were trying to boil these children, Our Lady said, God lessened the effect of this great miracle that was supposed to be bigger. We don't know how much bigger, but we know that it was supposed to be bigger. So what stood out to me is that their actions, their evil deeds affected the grace that the community got as a whole. So in our sense, when we talk about human injustice, God gave us free will. He gave these men free will to say, okay, I'm going to boil these children, which was extremely bad. But they had the freedom to choose whether good or evil. And their choice affected the community. And that is, again, why we have to pray for our enemies. It's not I'll ignore them, they'll go away. No. We pray for our enemies. And our enemies are not just like, no one's really trying to run after you with a knife, I hope. But when you hear politics and you hear bad news about a certain country or about certain wars coming up or whatever, pray for them. Pray, 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 pray. Because the justice of God is rising with unfailing triumph. It will rise. But you have to put in the effort. You have to help him. So that's when we talk about why isn't God doing something? Well, he is. He is through you and through your prayers. But we also have free will, whether to choose him or not to choose him. Let's take a small break and then come back and we'll continue talking about human injustice. So earlier I was talking about God being good in all circumstances, and the issue is that not that he's not good, but that he won't deliver us is the when. Then I got sidetracked and I was talking about Our Lady of Fatima. But to come back to this, I want to say that, I believe our main issue is the when. When is God going to deliver us? Because if you have faith, if you're listening to this, you probably have faith. And you probably believe in God. And so the issue is not that he's not there, but it's the when. And I think we grow impatient with God. And at times, we want him to give us what we think we need at that particular moment. But more often than not, he makes us wait. Why? Why would he make us wait? Well, transformation, you guys, takes time. Transformation really, it's a process. And sometimes God makes us wait through what seems to be an injustice so that we can grow. So that when someone else comes in and they're facing the same thing, we can help them. And by all means, you guys, if there's a bad situation that you can get out of, please do. I think victims have a hard time opening up, but please seek out help. Seek out help. If you are going through a situation, whether there's whether you're contemplating suicide, there are suicide hotlines. There we go. There are suicide hotlines. There are tons of things that especially in the US, there are tons of things that the government could help you with. Reach out. There are departments of justice. There are departments out there that help people in your situation. So if there's something that you can change, please, please, please go ahead and reach out for them. Okay? Do not think that you are alone. Again, you are not alone. But for certain things that we cannot change at the moment, and we are seeking God, and he makes us wait. Well, he makes us wait sometimes to give us an answer, because transformation takes time. Because I cannot teach calculus to a 4-year-old kid without having him learn all the math that he needs to get to the calculus. I have to start with 1 + 1 and then get to derivatives. And so it is with us. God sometimes makes us wait so that we have the complete information, so that we're aware of what he's trying to do. And really, God is with you, and he loves you, and hang on through this, and he is making you something better, the best version of yourself. Let's take a small break, and then we'll continue talking about the topic. All right, so welcome back, everybody. Have you ever baked a cake? If you have, or baked anything really, if you have, you start out with raw ingredients, and then you go through a process, and then you bake it. It's done. But you still can't eat it. Why? I'm glad you asked. Because as soon as it comes out of the oven, it's too hot, and if you slice the cake, it will ruin the cake, right? It will fall into crumbles at certain times. So, this cake that you're trying to bake, you started with the raw materials, you mixed it, you still can't eat it, right? You put it in the oven, you waited for it, you took it out, you waited for it again, and then you ate it. And you cut it and you ate it, right? So this cake transformation, or this cake baking, took multiple increments of patience, right? We have the raw materials, we mix it together, we had to, be patient as we were mixing, we're doing something, okay, we're done doing something, and then we put it in the oven, and then we have to wait a period that we're not doing anything, we're just waiting, and then we pull it out the oven, we finally get something to do, and it's like this little thing where we just take it out, put it on the stovetop, and just wait for it to cool. Again, it's another period of waiting. So the same thing happens with our spiritual life. God is trying to do something with our lives, okay? We trust him and we say, okay, God, do whatever you need to do. At times, we're doing something. We're really busy gathering things for whatever it is that we're doing. And then we start doing it. And then all of a sudden, we have to stop and wait. Great. And that troubles us. That troubles us, the fact that we have to just kind of sit there and wait for things to happen. And then we do this again, right? And we continue, and then we wait again. And then he does something else, and then we continue, and then we wait again. And so things take time. And as we were talking about, I know I've deviated a little bit from human injustice, but as we were talking about earlier, do not let your heart be troubled by the sad spectacle of human injustice. Even this has its value in the face of everything else. So the value of that waiting, or the value of the heart being waiting for whatever it is to be done, has its value. What's the value of waiting for the cake? Well, the end result would be that you have cake. And the value is that if you do not wait for it, you never have it. You never finish the cake. You never finish baking it. So sometimes we worry about, or our hearts are troubled and sad because we have to go through this process. But even then, there's stuff that could be done. While I'm waiting for the cake, maybe I do the dishes. While I'm waiting for the cake to cool down, maybe I set the plates. Maybe I go and invite people to come eat with me. Same thing when we're dealing with injustice. I know it's a completely different example, and it's not to be literal, but similar thing with a human injustice. There are things that we can do to help the world become better. But if our hearts are troubled, then we cannot help. We cannot become better. So in the face of all these human injustices, what can I do? What are the little things that I can do? Well, if I can wash the dishes while doing the cake, then I can do little things, maybe volunteer my time to help at the shelter, maybe push for a petition, maybe try to fundraise or whatever to help out with these atrocities. And so here we have two things going on. We have the human injustice, which we're asking why is God doing this? And then we have the aspect of waiting through the process so that God could deliver us, so that one day we will see the justice of God rising with unfailing triumph, so that we can go through this process and help him and be with him and work with him. And so I hope this episode didn't confuse you, because I feel like I went all over the place. But that's it for this week. If you have any questions, you are free to contact me at The Word with Rita on Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter. And I will be with you next week.